Greetings everybody, it's your boy Elemental here, and I'm making this video today to tell my story of my experience in Acapulco this year, and specifically what happened with me and the people I was working with Vending in Anarchapulco. So I will start this video off by talking about my experiences last year. So 2018 was my first year in Anarchapulco, and I didn't really know what to expect. I'm responsible, or Kenny's Kitchen is responsible for bringing me down here, Kenny Palantano, and he convinced me to come after a couple years of persuasion, and I'm very glad I did. Last year's experience was so uplifting and enlightening. I met so many conscious creators that were from so many different phases and facets of life that all had like similar goals in terms of a better world and more symbiosis with humanity, but each had their own skill sets and attributes and projects that they were doing in very different parts of things. So seeing all that come together and really being surrounded by that many conscious people that are really that conscious is a very rare thing. Even for like festivals and rainbow gatherings, it was more prevalent in my mind than any festival or rainbow gathering I'd been to up until that point. And also I noticed that there was quite a free market last year at the event. I didn't really see any event shirts. I did see one Anarchapulco style shirts that were being sold there. They were white tank tops. They had like a unicorn on them. I forget exactly what they said. My girlfriend got one of them last year. But what I noticed was that there wasn't actually any official Anarchapulco event shirts being sold, except for by ones that were made by patrons, and even those weren't screaming Anarchapulco. That's when I kind of clicked in my mind, because we were just starting to get into clothing and creating conscious type of clothing, and I sort of had this idea that maybe we could make event shirts for Anarchapulco the next year, which would be this year, but not just event shirts, but organic, unbleached fabric, hand dyed by us event shirts, either from fair trade companies. And I had this idea to create a Steam It design contest, and at the time Tribe Steam Up was doing really well, so they agreed to sponsor the contest. Before I even did the contest, though, I made sure to ask Jeff if it was okay to create an alternate community designed Anarchapulco logo, not to replace the original one or anything, but just to have something different for people, because anarchists seem to like a lot of variety. You know, and he said no problem, sure, you know, and that's pretty much the only interaction I've ever had with Jeff. I've never actually met him in person. I've seen him from a distance a few times, but yeah. So I got that permission, and then I went ahead and proceeded with the project. Now, before I get started with the rest of the story, I just want to make a couple of things clear. For one, I'm not here to destroy Anarchapulco. I really loved what I experienced at Anarchapulco last year and even this year. There's just a lot of issues that have to be corrected that I don't think the people running Anarchapulco are actually viewing as issues and actually addressing. They're kind of casting them off, which is almost worse than the problems themselves, just not addressing them. But you know, I'm just here to tell my story about what happened to me this year with only facts. I'm not going to make outlandish accusations, and I'm not trying to bash anyone specifically. I'm not into bashing people, and to be honest, I don't even really usually make these kind of videos, and because I prefer to stay out of drama. But I feel called to tell my story about this because there were several injustices that did not align with anarchy. That did, I mean, I just felt completely disrespected in some ways. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. These are the event shirts that we made. The one I'm wearing right now is a cannabis-dyed shirt. People at the conference loved them. The project itself was a 6-month project, and my girlfriend and I were doing it in all of our spare time away from work. You know, from everything from planning the design contest, getting sponsorship for it, and running that contest, figuring out the designs. Even at the end of the contest, I had to coordinate further with the graphic designers that went first and second place to merge the designs together to create this final logo that really, honestly, was exactly the type of thing I was looking for. You know, while everyone else was enjoying their holiday season, you know, we finished our work for the year at our job, and then literally the next day we started dyeing shirts. Before that, it was like organizing, trying to find organic, fair trade, unbleached shirts in every size from different companies on wholesale for the right amount. That took a really long time. It was a lot of headache. It was not easy to find those deals, and I had to be very patient and get things at specific certain times in order to get the deals that I needed. So when all of you were enjoying your holiday season, during Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we were dyeing shirts. Birthday, dyeing shirts. Every day until all 250 shirts were dyed. We were dyeing shirts. We had a huge tie-dye party with 8 different tie-dye artists where I provided incentives for them to come help do these tie-dyes for the shirts as well. And we produced, I guess, close to 100, if not a little more than 100, low environmental impact tie-dyed shirts in about 14-15 hours, all in one day. We stayed up very late, till about 6 or 7 in the morning, completing that part of the project. And then that wasn't even over there, even for the tie-dye part. Then we had to go through this madness of, moving the shirts, some of the shirts out after the dyes had set, rinsing them one by one in cold water and to release to stop the dye reaction, and then right afterwards in warm water, and then rinse for every single shirt. And then we didn't have enough space to dry it all, especially indoors, so we had to do a lot of it outside in the freezing cold, which was nuts. But anyway, long story short, it took a really long time just to do the tie-dye part of the project. That was several weeks of actually like drying and washing the shirts and all that. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Then we got into the herbal dyeing, and that was, a couple of months long. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then I finally got the shirts to the printer, and right after I dropped them off at the printer and they started processing them, I thought it would be a good idea to try to communicate with Jeff to work out a deal to where it would be fair for all ends for us to vend our shirts there, because they were event shirts for Anarchapulco. When I hit up Jeff about it, and people told me that beforehand that there was this girl Jess running the conference this year, and I remember that I'm not going to name too many names here, but my buddy was trying to contact her in regards to vending for several months for me and for him, with no reply. And then so anyway, I had heard things about some sort of dissension that was being created by Jess, and I didn't know how much it was true. I didn't even know her, but when I hear things like that from several people, I tread very cautiously, and based on what I was hearing, I decided that it might not be a good idea to speak with her directly, so that's why I went ahead and contacted Jeff instead and asked him and told him about the project and what was going on. As soon as I messaged him, he immediately directed it to Jess instead, and then she immediately contacted me and says, I need to speak with you on the phone. So she gives me a call. When she called me, I told her about my project. I told her what we were doing. These are pretty much the most anarchist type of shirts, the way they were made possible, and not to mention the designs themselves. This front design and the State of Anarchy design in the back are from a Steam It design contest, which pays tribute to how Anarchapulco got its name through an online contest that actually was won by somebody I know, this dude Bruce, that lives right near here to us in Bonefield. We hung out a few times this year and last year. I mean, the name Anarchapulco came from an online design contest, the same as this design for Anarchapulco, from an online contest with really anarchistic methods of creation. When I got on the phone with Jess, she was asking me questions that I've never been asked by anyone, and that especially from the people running the event that I'm trying to vend at. She was asking me questions like, how many shirts did you get? How much did you pay per shirt? How much was the cost for your dyes? What's the name of the printer that you're using? How much does it cost to do per shirt for how many shirts you did at that printer? Send me a list. Please email me a list of all the details about your project with all of your finances laid out to the T. Is pretty much, and not in so many words, what she asked for. And I felt very uncomfortable giving that kind of information out. Because I was kind of sensing like this sort of, when people ask you those kind of questions, it's usually because they want to know for themselves so they can kind of recreate what you've created. And it made me very nervous, and I actually kind of had this position the whole time to keep it under wraps so that it wouldn't get stolen by other people, the idea and the project itself. And when I finally did come out with it, immediately I'm being hit with these things like making me suspicious of just that. However, I reluctantly emailed her all the information about the project, how much each piece of material cost, how many shirts were, how much the shirts cost, all that. And she replies back with an email that basically said that my project does not fall in line with what Anarchapulco has put their time and energy into. I mean, and then the email continued to say, you know, we're gonna try to do something for you, but my advice to you would be to not print the shirts. After in the phone conversation, I had explained to her that they're already at the printer being printed, so she completely disregarded what I had said. And then she decided that she was gonna tell me, you know, hey, we're gonna try to do something for you, but my best advice to you would be to not print the shirts, but we'll see if we can do anything for you, and I'll let you know, if anything. And I was like, so you're telling me not to print the shirts, even though I already told you they're at the printer being printed, but at the same time, you're gonna see what you can do. Absolutely none of that lines up. That whole like string of words, it doesn't, it's just nonsensical. I mean, you can't tell me to make the shirts but not make the shirts, and you might be able to do something but you might not. I mean, it's very confusing. You know, after that one phone conversation and email, I decided that it wouldn't be to my advantage to continue communication with Jessica. And ever since that moment, all I heard from every single person that was attempting to coordinate with the conference in any fashion, and I'm talking like 20, 30 people here, they're influential members of this community. You know, they all told me they had negative experiences of some kind, whether it be them being told they can't vend certain items or just can't have a vending table at all, or whether, you know, people being told they can't have their workshops, people being told that, you know, they can't do things the way that they want to do them, essentially imposing their will on others, which, by the way, and I'm going to get into this in a second, is completely against the Anarchapulco manifesto, which was written by them. Just remember these 3 points specifically, you know. We will never infringe on another's freedom. We will never impose our will on others. And especially, we will honor and celebrate the diversity in the anarchist community. These are words that are written by the staff of Anarchapulco, and it's supposed to be adhered to at least by them, if not the entire community. Just saying.
Jeez.
You know?
What's up, Kenny? What's up, Quest?
After that conversation, I realized that I was going to have to use a certain set of tactics due to the situation. Because when somebody basically tells me, you know, you can't complete your project that's almost completed. You can't actually do the most important last step, which is distribute the products at the place that they were meant to be distributed, the event that they were made for. That was her coming in between me and my family's livelihood. I mean, I had thousands of dollars invested in this project, tons of time, okay? And we were charging bottom dollar for these things. We did not make much money in that conference, and there's a reason for that too, that also is really not my fault either. And yeah, I'm not just gonna back down and be like, oh yeah, sure, we won't sell these. We'll just keep all these shirts for our whole life because we can't sell them anywhere else because we made them for the event because they're event shirts, and just eat it. I'm not a rich person, man. I did this as kind of a favor for the conference to bring more vibrance and livelihood to the conference. And to be honest, every single person that bought shirts from me had nothing but good things to say. I saw people wearing them all over the conference. People would come up to me saying, thank you so much, I love my shirt. I'm gonna show it to everyone when I get home. And that's another thing. You know how much promotion the Anarchapulco is gonna get from these shirts? And not to mention the hundreds of free Anarchapulco stickers with this logo on them that I give away that advertises nothing but the conference. I mean, this is going to be a really positive thing that people talk about that's going to actually convince people to come next year and further years in the future and buy tickets to that conference. You know, so I was very offended when Jessica just pretty much was like, you know, fuck off, not in so many words, with your project. So I used a certain set of tactics to make sure that I would be okay. But in doing that, I couldn't really market the shirts and my products at our vending table the way that I wanted to. You know, ideally, I would have liked to set up coordination with the conference, include them in profit sharing, which, by the way, they also denied. I offered a profit sharing percentage. I asked them what they thought would be fair for a percentage based on, you know, the overhead and stuff and how much potential profit there would be. And they just threw it in the trash and told me no. What kind of event doesn't want to take my money, for one thing? I mean, I heard they were charging between $10,000 and $25,000 for an artisan vending table, which makes absolutely zero sense, even for a food vendor. You just can't make up that difference. That's like saying, let's just say even the $10,000 mark, that's saying, okay, so you have a product that is so good that a $10,000 deficit before you even start having a chance to make your money back or even start a chance to getting a profit is nothing to you, is nuts. I mean, it's nuts. Nobody has products like that they would sell at events like this. Okay, there's no major corporations that can come there and do that. I mean, maybe they would, but then it defeats the point, right? So, you know, yeah, it just overall, you know, we could have had, these could have even been the official event shirts for Anarchapulco. Now, I didn't know that Anarchapulco was already creating event shirts this year. They also kept that under wraps, didn't really tell anyone about it. And, you know, my intention was never to create any sort of competition. My intention was to create an item that was really, people really wanted, but it wasn't available. So I was filling a gap, but yeah. So anyway, let's get to the point where it's Anarchapulco day one. So day one, we come in there. You know, immediately when we start setting up our tables, Jessica comes over, basically is telling us to leave and get out of there. And you know, Carmen from State of Anarchy is telling him, hey, we got an email from Jeff saying we have permission to have our table here. And it was kind of a big scene. I didn't really get a whole lot of it on video. My girlfriend took these really small snapshots sort of after kind of the main part of the argument. So I'll include those right here. I did that 5 times, and that's my answer is anyway. This falls under the blanket. If you want, I can show you the email. I mean, if you want to see the email,
I think you're super disrespectful, and it's not needed at all. I was having a conversation with you, wanted to acknowledge you, and deal with it, but it's okay for you to be that way.
You want to see the email?
No, I don't.
Alright, cool. Alright, yeah. But I mean, I just told him. Sure, I'd like to. You film the whole thing? Not the whole thing.
How's everything going? ¿Cómo va todo bien? Fine. You need to speak to Jessica or this guy, sorry, the hotel. There's no nothing against you.
We're waiting for her and Jeff to show up.
Jeff? Okay, I'll tell him. Jeff, Paul?
Yeah, Jeff Burger.
Just get the boss down here.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
So we're having like some slight pain in the ass-ness from Jessica.
Yeah, we're being straight up. Jessica Kill is the reason why, even though we were told that we're allowed to set up here by Jeff Burke himself, I mean, I'll show you guys the email, Jessica doesn't like it for some reason. So if she'd be happy to do an interview, I'd be happy to have her speak on her own behalf and just fill in the community as to what the hell is going on about here. Because last time I heard, this was an anarchist community, and that means if you're not hurting anybody, nobody's going to tell you what to do. But that seems to be all we're getting today. I don't want to blame this on Jeff or anybody from last year, but for real, whoever's running the show this year needs to seriously get their head out of their fucking ass. And if they don't, they have to come talk to me personally, because I'm fucking sick of it. For being fucking honest, all right? We're here to fucking help people in the whole community. None of this fucking walk and talk shit. And they're all fucking pussies. Like, Jessica and Vanessa will not come up here and talk to us. They're sending the hotel here. The hotel doesn't want to deal with this. They just want the convention to be happy. But they're like, did we move yet? Fuck that. Come do it yourself. I'm right here. State of Anarchy's booth. Come talk to me, all right? I'm preciously waiting for you.
Not going anywhere. They don't call her Jessica Hill for
Yeah, I would post that. Dude, let's get that up right now, honestly. Let's get it up before all this shit.
So yeah, and in the morning we got a lot of crap from her, and then we moved on throughout the day, had a pretty good day, and at the end of the day, I told everyone that we were vending with that we should not have any reason to expect her to not try to mess with us and not try to hinder us from vending. So I was suggesting that we take our vending tables that we were using that day up to one of our friends' hotel rooms for the night. What's up, guys? It's Elemental back here in Oregon. My video that I was taking to Acapulco cut off on me. So I'm going to continue the rest of the story here. As I was saying, I was suggesting to all our vending buddies that we take the tables that we were using up to one of their hotel rooms, since there's a couple people we were vending with that were actually renting hotel rooms at the Princess. You know, and they kind of told me, oh, she's not going to take our tables, don't worry about it. And I was just thinking, well, I don't see why she wouldn't take our tables. I mean, she has complete control over hotel security. So I'm assuming that pretty much as soon as we left the area, she probably told security to come and take our tables, which is exactly what happened. We showed back up the next morning on the busiest day of the conference on Friday with no vending tables. Because of that, you know, I was spent the entire day with having all of our shirts for the event on the ground, basically in a suitcase, and they were way behind. You know, the main part of State of Anarchy ended up finding a table for their stuff and for their interviews, but we didn't find the additional one that we had before. So I spent the whole day trying to figure out a way how to get a table. I eventually did get one, but it wasn't until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and since it was the busiest day of the conference and we didn't make our money back until late on Sunday, the last day of the conference, off of the overhead for the project, most of the profit that we would have otherwise made, because our shirts weren't able to be seen on the ground like that the whole day of the busiest day of the conference, was on that day. And we missed out on a lot of those sales, so therefore we really didn't make anything. We made a couple $100. We ended up spending it down there, but we still have a ton of t-shirts left. So anyway, I ended up getting a table at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the busiest day of the conference, a couple of hours before that day of the conference ended. And I did make a couple of sales after that, but it really was a hindrance to making a profit on the project in general. So the next day we came in, and once again, hotel security was in our face. In fact, this happened on the day they took our tables too. We set up again, and they still were coming over there telling us to leave. We have to leave. We can't do this. And every time, this happened every single day of the conference. Either Jess or one of her employees or hotel security, or a combination of those things, all came over and tried to say we had to leave. And every time we said, no, we're not leaving. We've been working on these projects forever, you know, and we're not just going to back down. We have permission to be here. And what we kept saying was, you know, if there's really an issue, have Jeff come down here and talk to us, and we'll have a conversation about this. So that never ended up happening. But on the last day of the conference, I noticed that Jeff actually did come down to our vending booth and actually gave an interview with the State of Anarchy crew, our crew there. He didn't say a word about us vending any of the items that were being vended there, not a word. So if he had a problem with it, he would have said something then, which kind of made me think that maybe he didn't even know about, you know, some of the things that she was doing, trying to throw us out. I'm not sure. Maybe she did. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But he didn't say anything about it. But I want to say, too, that, you know, this dissension that was being attempted to be drawn on us by Jess and her cronies, essentially, didn't really work. In fact, the opposite effect occurred. We had experienced more unity in being challenged in our beliefs and our ability to exercise our freedoms as anarchists. Yeah, it really united us as a vending crew. And it wasn't just, you know, myself and the main people in State of Anarchy, which I consider myself a part of this group now. It was also Derek Bros, who was vending his t-shirts, but he was also giving a workshop, you know, speaking. I actually caught the end of his talk, which was amazing. I'm really glad I caught that. And yeah, I wasn't sitting there being like, hey, Derek, you can't sell your t-shirts because I'm selling t-shirts. No way, man. I wanted to support him as much as I possibly could. I really like Derek. I really like his projects, what the messages he's trying to give to people, the wisdom he's spreading, the light and love he's spreading. Yeah, I'm just all about it. And not only that, but we had Kenny down there with us too. He had his booklets out on the table, Derek Rose's books, along with his t-shirts, and there was just a general sense of unity. And I remember at one point thinking that it would have been a little bit better of a spot if we would have moved like to the other set of doors, like closer to where the other vendors were in that corner. But I also realized that it wasn't really possible, because we wanted to stay united vending in one area, so we couldn't be picked apart, because we felt like that we would have been more vulnerable to attack and separation if we were separated at different tables, even if they were close to each other. So we wanted to keep it all together Now that isn't like ideal because we wanted a better location, but it still was a good location, so it was fine. But I really wish we could have marketed it differently. If we would have been able to work with the conference, we could, we could have put things all over the conference, talking about where the T-shirts were, been really more visual about it, and vocal about it. But we kind of had to keep it under wraps to a degree as far as marketing was concerned, because of the situations. We really didn't want to cause any more problems than were already being created out of nothing as it was. So so yeah, that's kind of how that went down. And I was not happy with being subjugated in that way, us as a group, not just me. But we dealt with it, we got through it, and we are better people because of this experience now. There were all kinds of complaints I heard from speakers, from other patrons, and just all kinds of stuff. I even heard that Jess was yelling at one of the speakers before they gave one of their work, like right before they were about to give a workshop in front of people. Like, it's completely unprofessional, uncalled for. And just generally, like, the way that it was set up was confusing. I heard speakers complaining about having, people wanted to see these two different speakers, right? And they were going on at the same time on different stages. Like, that's just not smart planning. That's neither here nor there to this situation, though, but it's just like a compiling of all these things that don't make sense for an anarchist conference. I mean, it's anarchy, right? And not like statism. And it just seemed like a lot of what was going on and how things were being handled was more in line with being statist than anarchist. And that's, I think, what the main thing was about people saying that Jess is a statist. It's not just because she has her picture at the White House on Facebook. That's kind of icing on the cake. I mean, that's not really the main reason. It's because of the way that she was going about things with the conference, and the way she was handling people was too restrictive. There's too much prohibitive regulation. It reminded me of the government in a lot of ways. So that really kind of like turned me off to the conference in general. But like I said, with all that being said, I would like to see some improvements for Anarchapulco for next year, some real ones, especially in regards to the speakers and vending. When I went last year, people, it was basically an unspoken thing that if you have a ticket, you have a table if you want one. And people kind of just had tables around. Some were inside the conference area, some were right outside of it, some were in other random places throughout the resort. There was no issue with it, and it flowed perfectly. I think if you want to make it a little bit more structured, it might be a good idea to just have all the vendors in one location right outside the conferences. I heard an idea spit out recently about having the vendors in the area, in the courtyard area where the stateless store was. However, I don't know if that's such a good idea. For one thing, it's off of the main path. It's not near where the actual speakers are, so the main flow of traffic isn't going to go there. It's not really to the advantage of the vendors to be in that location for that reason, and also for the other reason of the fact that it's in like direct beating sunlight. No vendor is going to want to sit in that direct sun all day, and certainly patrons aren't going to enjoy, looking at the items in the direct sun like that. It's brutal down there. And with all that being said, it would be my suggestion to not only put all the vendors outside the main conference area there on that L path, but also the stateless items. Anything that the conference is going to officially sell should be there too, for the same reasons. A lot of people couldn't find the stateless store. That was another mistake that I saw. Also, it was really cool to meet Agrode, because he actually sponsored the State of Anarchy vending stand, and he had his Steam Monster promo cards that get you a free pack of Steam Monsters with the promo code, or somehow if you don't have a Steam account, it can actually open an account for you instantly with the amount of Steam that's on the card. I don't know how that works exactly, but I'll put a picture of one of the cards down here. And yeah, I have hopes for my interactions with Anarchapulco in the future, but I'm not going to bank on them. Because so far I haven't seen anything put out that is going to point towards the conference being run in a fashion that's more in line with anarchy versus how it was done this year. So let's just say there would have to be a lot that has to change for me to want to come back again. And I'm definitely not going to put up with that kind of treatment, and I'm definitely not going to put a bunch of my energy, time, and money into a big project like that if it's not wanted there, if I feel unwelcome. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. You know, I think that some of the other events that are popping up in kind of rebellion to this, they should take note of that and not be so mad about it, because people are creating these alternate events like Anarchapulco and Anarch Awakening and other events spread throughout the world, because they're, you know, they would be more united with Anarchapulco if they felt like they should be, but because of what is happening, the way the conference is being run, the way people are being treated that are trying to help the conference, it's steering people away. It's making people create rebelling events, not rebelling events, renegade events, and, you know, take note of that. Adjust appropriately. Don't just be mad and be like, we're going to do what we want anyway, because if you keep doing that, it's not going to be an anarchy conference any longer. A lot of people feel like it isn't already. So that's the message from the community that I was getting, and this video is the message from me and my experiences and what happened to me personally at Anarchapulco 2019. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it informative, and I hope that, my main hope is that this video will inspire someone in the upper echelons of Anarchapulco to actually make a real change to get this conference back to anarchy, because Anarchapulco to the world is the staple of anarchy right now. It's the biggest anarchy event that I'm aware of, and it's important that something like that has a good reputation, and right now it sort of doesn't. So let's work on that so our entire movement doesn't get discredited. Thank you for your time, much love, and peace out. Have a blessed day.